Ember Witch. Book 1. The Lich. Volume 1. Black Tragedy. Chapter 4. Black Tragedy. September 19, 459 BME to October 31, 461 BME. Fragment 40. Decision. After a few minutes of sitting by the fire that sat directly in the center of the council tent, Hana had gotten her breathing back to a more normal level. Her wheezing had calmed and she was able to focus on her surroundings. Both Fevra and Hana were sitting on the ground while everyone else took their seats in the old wooden chairs that sat around them in a circle. The two tables had been moved to the back of the tent to create room for not only the fire pit but the meeting that was now taking place. Fevra looked to each of his packmates, understanding the anger, sadness, confusion, and betrayal they all held in their faces. He held back his emotions as Vera's stern voice played in his head. He thought over each time she had gone for his throat over letting his emotions show. Every time she had struck him for showing weakness. She had only treated him in such a harsh manner to break his old self and to rebuild a new identity. He was no longer Fevra Gree, he was just Fevra. He had been stripped of his family name when exiled, and now that he had been broken from his old life, he sat in front of his past. It stared at him with a multitude of faces. He took a deep breath, then bowed his head in respect for his past.
High Council of the Dark Claw, I come before you in exile. I explicitly broke the laws of our pact by not only returning years after I murdered my very own blood but by bringing an outsider into the forest. I do not seek your forgiveness as I have no right to it. I only ask that you heed my warning. The Dermorden of the Fevra people, ruler of the East and breaker of rebellion, has discovered a plot threatening the mainland. A plot conceived by and carried out by the Elven Kingdom to invade and conquer in any means they see fit. I return to give warning to each pack in hopes that when the day comes the Lyran people will not be taken by surprise. My companion and fellow guard to the Dermorden can collaborate this warning as we were sent together in hopes that our warning is made clear.
Fevra explained, and several of the council members began chattering between each other in liars.
Why would we ever believe you?
Gresha asked the question on everyone's minds, causing the chatter to die down.
I do not expect you to believe me. I betrayed our pack, murdered my friends and family and was cast out in shame. You have no reason to believe anything I say. I understand that my presence here is a death sentence and I accept that. I accepted that the moment I stepped foot into the forest. Only the foolish and the brave would make their way back after exile. You can see me as both. I was brought into the service of the Fevra ruler as a personal guard and warrior. I fought to protect her lands from a necromantic rebellion that would have killed millions, and I faced and captured a Noki elven spy who had plotted the rebellion from the start. I was asked by Dermorden Ida Kaisha herself to deliver this warning, knowing full well that sending me back would mean my death. I accepted this duty because I was the only person who could reach you.
Fevra said, and again several members began chattering.
I have traveled with both Fevra and Hana from winter to summer on this journey. We have seen the high leaders of 6 packs giving them the same warning as they had delivered to High Leader Tanra. They knew the dangers of entering the forest and yet they still entered. I believe that this elven invasion is a very real threat. My father believes it and so do the other high leaders. Please grandfather, take care in your decision. If the elven do invade, it wouldn't take long before they break the spells of the forest,
Maria said, causing the noise of arguments to settle once more. Sina looked down to Fevra and Hana, who sat tied up but respectful, and took a few moments before he spoke.
I have watched you and Loka grow from puppies to young men. I held your mother's hand as she passed away. I buried your father after he fell prey to a Morin, and I buried your brother when you cut him down. I do not want to bury the last living Gree. You are all that's left of your family line. The last to stand upon Havon. I believe it was a foolish and insane idea to come here after years of exile just to be hung. I have no doubt that the decision was not an easy one to make, but you have come all this way knowing of your fate. The fact that you brought a Fyren into the forest speaks to the seriousness of the situation. Young lady, what more could you add to this story to help guide our decision?
Sina said, and Hana wheezed in surprise. She gathered herself, then took a deep breath.
High Council, I understand that we are not the most trustworthy of people. An exile and an outsider don't make a great team when dealing with a situation as delicate as this. Our races haven't been in contact for several hundred years. The Fire and people are unable to navigate the complex and powerful spells that guard this forest. However, our ruler believed that you needed to know of the conflict building outside these trees. She sent us knowing that hearing it from someone who had no connection to the evergreen and an exile would increase the likelihood that it would be taken seriously. In all honesty, I don't want to die. I thought I would live another 60 years, but here I am bound from my color, tied up and suffering from internal injuries to ensure that when the Elven come your people will not suffer. I beg you, High Council, believe and prepare.
Cynder looked over at her as she spoke her piece, then turned to Jolin, who nodded.
This decision is a great burden. In our history the Elven have been known to destroy those that do not align with their beliefs. A church dedicated to the forgotten goddess annihilated. As a council we must decide the fates of two Rin who bring us warning of the Elven rise to come. We shall deliberate while our guests are seen to a warm bed.
Cynder said. Then a pair of guards picked both Fevra and Hana up from the ground. They were led to a single tent and placed inside with their hands still tied behind their backs. A small bed sat close to the ground and they looked at each other. Fevra gestured his head for Hana to take the bed, then laid on the ground. After some time of restlessness, they fell asleep knowing that when morning came their judgment would come.
So you have returned?
The woman asked, and Vera nodded, not knowing what to say.
I have watched everything you have done for some time now. Things are moving faster than expected, however take some time to gather your thoughts before you move.
The woman continued, and Vera nodded once again.
I understand that you have studied necromancy. The power itself is of my design. You must be willing to sacrifice everything in order to use it effectively. Don't let your ethical hang-ups keep you from achieving your potential.
The woman said, then walked around her. Vera, now thinking fast, opened her mouth to speak, but the woman interrupted her.
Tell me, Vera, do you truly believe that your actions in destroying a blood blade were for the safety of the world?
Vera shot her a look as if she had seen directly into her heart.
No, Your Holiness. I did it because I was paid to do it,
she said, and the woman smiled.
You believe that your actions were hasty, don't you? A weapon powerful enough to destroy your enemies would have benefited your people far more in your own hands, wouldn't it? It is exactly this sentiment that caused your dear Fevra to leave you in search for the Black Blade. I can see it in you, I can see the darkness in your heart. Wouldn't you feel so much more powerful if you had convinced your Morden to keep the blade instead of destroying it? You held it in your own hands after all.
Yes,
Vera said with a nod.
The elven woman you encountered has committed a terrible sin. A page of my follower's Bible was destroyed by her, however the information was not lost. It is being held by a human who cannot comprehend the information that floods her mind,
the woman said, and Vera turned her head in confusion.
What are you talking about?
I can't give you all the answers, Vera, you must find them for yourself,
the woman said.
What do you want me to do?
Vera asked, and the woman smiled again.
Help this human family silence their nightmares. The mother holds lost rituals in her mind but has no one to show her how to perform them. This power she holds is the key to your people's survival. Without them there is no hope in controlling the Black Blade.
The woman replied, and again the vision vanished. Vera opened her eye and looked around the room. Kaisha had prepared rooms in her estate for the 4 Cynders when they came back from their duties. She had wanted to shutter the sanctuary the Cynders used for some time, and now that Vera had returned she promised that they would no longer be required to sleep in a tiny cold and damp cave. Instead, they would have some of the most luxurious rooms in her estate. Vera rolled over as she took in the room. Thin paper walls, bright red paint, large paintings of beauty, and a mirror that ran from ceiling to floor graced her eye. She pulled herself from the bed, then began dressing. They were awoken before the sun had risen and were yet again sitting before the council. Cynder looked tired and worn down, but he held himself up in a position of power. He looked down to Fevra and Hana without showing any sign of his ultimate decision. Jolin and Maria were amongst the council as they had been the previous night. Maria was looking down at her lap nervously while Jolin had begun leaning his chair back. Hesha held his eyes closed as if he was sleeping.
We have made a decision. Fevra and Hana, your warning has been taken into account. After a long night of discussion, it is the council's decision that you will be allowed to continue your journey. Both Maria and Jolin have argued their thoughts on the situation along with the heavy feelings from myself and Hesha on this situation.
Cynder said, then nodded, and 2 guards approached them. They cut the ropes away from their hands, and then moved back to the door of the tent. Fevra and Hana stood up, then bowed in the Fevran manner.
Thank you, High Leader,
they said in unison, and Cynder stood from his chair. He stepped forward and embraced Fevra in a hug.
I wish things could have been different, however if things hadn't changed your warning would have never been heard.
Cynder said, and Fevra held the old man tightly.
I am sorry. I have suffered every day for what I have done.
Fevra said as he held Cynder. They broke apart after a moment, then Cynder turned to Hana.
I have yet to properly introduce myself. My name is Cynder Tross, adoptive father to Fevra, grandfather to Maria, and of course High Leader of the Dark Law.
Cynder said, then bowed his head. Hana smiled and bowed back.
My name is Ishi Hana, Royal Guard to Ida Kai Shah. It's a pleasure, High Leader,
she said in a respectful tone. She hadn't even thought to ask Fevra if he had family in the forest. It seemed obvious, but now that she had a full idea of how complicated his past was, she wanted to speak with him. Over the months spending time with his people, she had begun to see the Lyran differently. She had been spared death 8 times now. She had seen how they respected and treated each other, and it made her realize that they were different than she had thought for most of her life. She still held hatred in her heart. Nothing would change that. Seeing her family's burned bodies at such a young age had planted an anger in her that would never go away. Now that she knew that Fevra was the last of his bloodline, she knew that her anger with him over not knowing how it felt to lose everything was unfounded. Maria, being his adoptive niece, made the whole situation more complex. She was so young, and Hana had no idea why she was chosen to join them, but now it made so much sense. Even after his exile, his people, his family, wanted to see him live a better life. She had no idea what he was feeling at the moment. Cynder gestured for the council to leave, then nodded to both Fevra and Hana.
You are guests within our camp for the next week. You are free to gather any supplies you will need for your travels. I understand that in your current circumstances, leaving immediately could cause issues. You are welcome to see our healers if you are having any complications.
Cynder said, then gestured for them to follow him out of the tent. They both bowed and walked out into the camp. After a full night of walking through the freezing temperatures of the desert, the Orson had decided to set up camp. Neela and Cress were on the brink of collapse as they set up their tent in the rising sun.
How much longer do we have to do this?
Cress asked, holding back from crying in exhaustion.
I'm not sure. It seems like Lord Darrow is purposely keeping us here to test us. I wouldn't doubt that he has refused us to leave just to see if we have the strength to survive out here. He knows that if we left on our own we could travel faster and reach the Ashlands before the gathering. He wants us to experience the hardships his people endure.
Neela replied as she placed a rock down on the corner of the tent.
This is bullshit and you know it. We could have found the elf and been back home by now.
Cress said, and Neela looked over to her.
There isn't anything we can do. If we run he will send a hunting party after us. If we stay we are subjected to his law. Either way we are at his mercy.
Neela replied, which caused Cress to shoot her a dirty look.
Fuck Darrow. I am not going to sit here and take his shit any longer. We have a job to do. No doubt Vera and Fevra have completed theirs by now. We are wasting time that gives the Elven the advantage.
Cress shot out.
I understand your frustration, Cress. I know that we are wasting time here. I don't want to be stuck here this long just as much as you, but we have to push through this. Without the backing of the Broken Fang we will have no ground when we confront the Ashlanders. It's not illegal for the Elven to be on the mainland. They have had the opportunity to visit for hundreds of years but chose to stay on Sin's Garden. We can't just run into the Ashlands and murder their guest. That would shatter the relationship between the Orson and Fevra. The only reason why Vera is able to do just that is because the humans already find us as monsters. She is working to kill the corruption of the Elven and prove to the humans that they are in danger. The Orson are at constant odds with each other. If we give them an excuse to band together against us, we will see the full might of their warriors. We need at least one clan on our side. If one clan believes that the Elven spy is working against their people, they can back us during the invasion. If we just run into the camp and kill the Elven, it could be taken as a sign that the Fevra are out for blood. I know this is complicated, but the Orson are a difficult race of people to understand.
Neela replied, then tossed her bag inside the tent. Cress stepped forward with a frown and did the same.
Fine,
she said, then stepped inside the tent. Neela looked over the camp of Orson and thought to herself about the days to come, then stepped inside the tent to join Cress.
You do have their location, right?
Dara asked as she knelt at Kaisha's throne.
I do, however I don't think you should be going anywhere so soon.
Kaisha said, and Vera looked down to the ground.
Your Grace, I need to know. There is something that I need to do, and the Void Moths are my only lead now that Hana is gone.
Vera said, and Kaisha looked down to her with a sigh.
They are held up in an abandoned bank in the Lane district. Whatever it is you wish to learn from them is not worth it, Vera. Your body has been violated, your mind remains damaged, and you have not been sleeping well at all. Please rest, you are not ready to work again.
Kaisha replied, and Vera stood up, then began walking out of the throne room.
I have to. I am sorry,
she said before she exited the room. Fevra stood at the edge of his brother's grave. A stone sat before him, etched deeply into its surface red. Lokar Gree, brother, friend, hunter. Fevra looked to the stone with a deep, painful stare as his memory flooded back to him. He wished he could hear his voice again, see his smile, and tell him that he was sorry. He knelt down and stared at the stone as he began praying. Hana stepped behind him and looked to the stone. She wanted to say something, but her words were so jumbled in her mind that nothing came. She could feel Fevra's dark pressure washing over her. It crashed out in great waves, causing a great deal of anxiety and sadness to flow through her.
He didn't deserve to die. I was too weak to stop it, too weak to fight against its power,
Fevra said, and Hana placed a hand on his shoulder.
Necromancy takes away from everyone. It's a power that was made to feed off of suffering. I am so sorry that you lost your brother to it,
she said, and Fevra took a deep breath.
We have to make sure they don't get their hands on it. I don't want to live in a world where the thing is in control of armies. We need to get going. We still have another half dozen or more packs to speak with before we reach the Rosen Rain,
he said, and Hana looked down to his face. His usual confidence not showing through his sadness and pain. He stood up, then began walking back towards the camp, but Hana didn't move.
Fevra,
she called out, and he looked back to her.
I wanted to apologize for my behavior before. After being around you and your people for so long, I realized that my perception of the Lyran was wrong. I have been trying to process a flood of feelings for months now. Maria saved my life. You stood up for me even knowing that you would die for it. I was wrong. I still feel anger and hatred in my heart over what happened, but I understand that you and the other Lyran had nothing to do with it. Could you ever forgive me?
Hana said, and Fevra smiled, then took a few steps forward. He placed his hand on her shoulder, and she looked away from him.
I never held it against you. I know that you are hurting, I know the pain all too well. We will be back home soon and then we can move forward. You have every right to feel anger and hatred. Over the months we have been together I have grown to see who you are. I consider you a friend, and despite our disagreements and fighting we have a greater purpose to fulfill here. I don't have to forgive you, I only need to accept you as who you are. Our scars make us who we are and your scars run deep,
he said, and Hana looked to him again. She had a crimson tear running down her cheek that shimmered in the daylight. It fell to the ground and splattered into the soil. As it was absorbed into the ground, Fevra and Hana embraced. The dreams never stopped. even after Syria used her powers. They kept getting worse, more vivid and detailed. Her mother, already losing her faith, stopped attending church. She no longer prayed and no longer cared. Lilith had been conversing with Syria over the past few months, but never been able to visit. They sent letters back and forth, but only in a friendly way. The first letter Lilith received from Syria explained that she couldn't be in a relationship with her if Eve was going to punish her for it. This news hurt but made sense to Lilith. She spent her days watching Ares attempt to use magic, but to no avail, as well as going over the notes Syria had made for Ares's training. She had found the notes pertaining to the page of the Narcissus the most useful and informative. The very idea of a simple piece of paper holding such darkness had caught her attention, and now she was determined to find the answers for why the dreams never stopped. She was going to learn its every secret and break the curse herself if needed. This revelation had come to her after noticing a few mentions of her mother's necklace in Syria's research. She would have to read everything Ares had in order to determine if her current theory would work, but she at least had a place to start. Ares was currently out for a run, and she knew that she only had a few hours before she came back home. She rifled through the pages, merely skimming through the tightly packed writing. Finding several instances of what she was looking for, she began copying the sections word for word. After a few more weeks of letting the healers look over Hana's lung, the group was ready to move again. Both Fevra and Jolan had wanted to move long before now, but Cynder had insisted on them staying. Not only to make sure that Hana would be in a healthy state, but for his own reasons. He had wanted to spend more time with Fevra. Although he wasn't his true son, he had raised him from a young age. It was a hard decision to make back when he had to exile Fevra, and even harder to come to terms that his two adopted children were gone. He had grieved for months over it. Seeing Loker's name etched into a stone just outside of his camp. Knowing that he would never see their faces again. He had been in a state of depression for so long that he had almost forgotten what happiness was. Soon after Fevra had been exiled and Loker laid to rest, his daughter had passed away. He had lost so much in such a short time that he had thought that the gods hated him. It was a shock to hear Jolan inform him that Fevra had returned. He was both excited and saddened to hear the news. On one hand, he could finally hold Fevra again, and on the other, he would have to put him to death. After seeing him again and in the state he was in, along with being accompanied by a Fyron, Cynder had known that Fevra was telling the truth about the Elven. He had put in his vote along with Maria and Jolan's that pushed the scale into sparing their lives. The two Lyrans sat on the floor of Cynder's tent sharing one last night together before Fevra would leave him once again.
I know that you stuck up for me, Cynder. All those years of mistakes and you never gave up on me. I am so sorry to have let you down so severely. I wish I could take back that day. I wish I could go back and stop myself from going out for that hunt.
Fevra said in a low tone. Cynder looked up from his cup of tea.
There is nothing you can do now. I know you didn't mean it, I know that it has affected you deeply. Not just the memory or pain that you feel, but in a physical way. You've lost an arm, you push out a dark pressure that has persisted since that day. I know about your personal life, I know you don't adhere to our way, and I can only blame myself for it. What you do is your business and it isn't my place to judge you for it. I only wish that you could have stayed here. I love you, Fevra, I love you as if you were my own.
Cynder said, and Fevra looked down in near shame.
I'm guessing Maria told you.
Fevra replied, then took a few breaths before he spoke again.
I know that my decisions go against our people's principles. How could I keep those ideals when my life changed so drastically? I made a new life for myself and decided to make my own decisions. If you look down on me for being who I am now, I understand. I only hope that you don't hold those decisions against me.
Fevra said, and Cynder set his tea down.
I don't look down on you at all, in fact I respect you for it. You have grown into a striking and impressive young man. You made your way back here knowing that you would certainly die. You lost a part of yourself and continued to fight for what you believed is right. I know that your family would be proud of you. I am proud of you.
Cynder replied, and Fevra smiled. He leaned forward and hugged his father, knowing this would be the last time he ever would.
Thank you, Father.
He said as Cynder wrapped his arms around his son.